Hey everyone, welcome back to Small Biz Stories. I am your host, of course, Dr. LL, and every week we bring you all kinds of interesting guests to talk about different aspects of entrepreneurship and small business. Today we've got Neil Twa. Not only is he an author of a proven method of a book called Almost Automated Income with FBA, that's fulfillment by Amazon for those that weren't in on the know on the acronym, but he also writes a very powerful Substack called High Voltage Business Builders. And it's got more than 10,000 subscribers, like myself, who are just all about his advice when it comes to business development, selling on Amazon, growing your business into an asset. So, with that, Neil, I've pumped you up. Welcome to the show.
I'll try to live up to the expectations, Lorian. Thank you for having me on the call. It's great to be here.
Well, I think you can no doubt live up to the expectations. I saw a YouTube that you posted just a couple of weeks ago, I think, with a gentleman, I've forgotten his name, but he was trying to do the Amazon fulfillment methodology to try to build his business, and he wasn't succeeding until he met you. And so he gave you a like raving reviews and testimonial about how it works, and you broke it down. So I do think you can live
Yeah.
up to it.
Well, that's awesome. I can help the ones I can help, and maybe there's somebody listening to this today that will get some value out of it. I sure hope so.
Well, that's the goal. Tell our audience in your own words what you're good at.
Well, my superpower is seeing the bigger picture and seeing different, complexities and kind of being the guy in the middle that can put those two together to help others see how they can be successful or operate within the project, the business, the mechanism that we're moving in. And I found my place kind of in that in life from the beginning of getting into business and learning how to do business myself as a person and selling myself into the corporate world and figuring out where's my place and value. I'm kind of that sticky glue guy in the middle. I wasn't pure business in my corporate world experience, and I wasn't pure technology, but I sat in the middle of that, and that's what I became very good at. I was good at it enough that IBM came in and hired me out of my previous job to go do that for them, and then I ended up doing it on my own in business. So my superpower is really just seeing the things that others do not, and being able to find a path from beginning to end.
Well, to that end, for our audience that doesn't have the benefit of having dialogue with us in the minutes leading up to when we go live, Neil had shared that, well, okay, we won't talk about mergers and acquisition, Laurelyn, because your audience is more on that micro business to smaller business side. He said, but we really should talk about how they package themselves to transform what they've
Yeah.
built into a sellable asset and then generational wealth. So, talk to us about that, I guess, the end point in
Yeah.
mind and how businesses can work and back into it.
Well, honestly, if we're not thinking about our business as another job, and we're thinking about it as an asset, we want all assets to appreciate, right? We want to be appreciated in our role in the business, but we also want that asset to eventually take on a life of its own that doesn't require us to have every micro detail. In other words, we want to be working on the business, not in the business. And I think a lot of us get caught up. I certainly did in my first 3 to 5 years of business as being the sole, knowledge provider, the sole answer, the sole responsible person for the growth and success of that business. And as I got into being mentored later on by other business owners, they're like, no, you really can't do that if you want to grow the business. You need to not just be the person who does the work and sells the business. You need to pick one horse and ride it. We say out here in the country, you can't ride two horses with one arse. So you need to figure out which horse to ride. So for me, I discover the best horse to ride if you're going to be in business is not the person who executes the business and overarching. It is the person who actually sells the business. We say sales fixes everything. So in other words, in simple terms, you can't be the plumber who sells the business and delivers the business. You will be the one who works 80 hours a week. And then you don't get to a position where you start to train and trust and do what we call a force multiplier of yourself out into the market. And what ends up happening then is you might just be okay with that. And maybe you want to be a full practitioner in that business. And that's it. That's great. You like the money, you like the time, you like the work, no harm, no foul. But if you're a business owner who wants to get past 1 million a year in sales, you need a systems and processes and technology in place to support that. If you're going to go from 1 million to 5 million, you're going to have to replicate yourself into the key roles in the business. And if you're going to go from 5 to 10 million a year, you're going to have to get out of your own way. The businesses that don't succeed between 5 and 10 million in growth are usually because the owner's risk to reward ratio is not great enough to meet the next jump. Not that the business can't do it, not that it's not proven, not that your products don't have market share. It's that you are not being able to take the risk to move it to the next level.
Oh, there's so much in there that you said that resonated with me. I thought until fairly recent times, it was a badge of honor to be the CEO, the chief everything officer.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten to the place in my business, God, I'm
No.
exhausted, right?
Yeah.
And overwhelmed. And
Built
this
another
is what I
job for
hear.
yourself, right?
Right. Well, but that's just it. And
Yeah.
it wasn't supposed to be that way. And so
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that your advice right here is really helpful. And we like to do that up front. Like we don't wait till the end, right? Oh, here's the tips at the end. No, here's the advice up front. Talk to us a little bit more about that,
Well,
how
how do we
you can
execute?
advise, right, the business owner
Yeah.
to step away and say, yeah, this is your lane. This is the one that you really own. And then this one, you need to walk away. Give us some guidelines and, what are the, I guess, the guardrails around that when you start to see, go, oh,
Well, it's
need
hard
to
to
pull
let
back.
go in your own business because a lot of times once you get it going, you get to a point where if you start to make some success in it, the mind kicks in. Remember those seagulls from the story? Mind.
Yeah.
And you start to try to control everything in that success out of fear of loss. So what you're doing while you're trying to create abundance for yourself, your life, maybe your family, significant other, what you're actually doing is creating scarcity. So you actually are still
Mhm.
hanging on to a scarcity mindset, a scarcity mentality. You haven't let go and thought of the abundance or the reward on the other side of the risk. All you're seeing is the risk. So we call that a risk to reward ratio, right? And what you have to do is be willing to literally, as an entrepreneur who's seeking to become a business owner, please let's make sure we designate the two differences. In the entrepreneurial stage, you're still trying to define who you are in business, what you're selling, and how you can replicate that for yourself at a larger space. And that may be pivoting through multiple places or failing forward through multiple activities of marketing or business or sales or even services or products in that mechanism, but you should be failing forward in that entrepreneurial journey so that you can discover what it is you do, who you sell to, and what your offer or irresistible offer is, and then
Mhm.
looked at, to create what are called objectives and key results out of that success. So then you can replicate yourself into other individuals. At that point, you're now looking at it from more of an abundance mindset. With this, then the concern becomes, well, I'm not great at managing people, or I'm concerned they're going to waste my time and energy because I've hired somebody in the past and it didn't work. And I hired another person in the past and it didn't
Mhm.
work. And I hired somebody else and they
Yeah.
failed to do their job. Well, guess what? I'm sorry, but that was your fault. Okay. You need to take ownership that those people didn't execute correctly in the framework you put them. So, how do we fix that? We create what are called objectives and key results. Out of the efforts that I make for every activity I know creates a revenue generating activity, RGA. I need to be able to replicate somebody into that process. To do that, what was the objective? And what are three key results that allowed that to occur? If I can define those things for that particular activity, could be a marketing, could be a sales activity, could be a product service support, could be a product output, it could be a physical product itself. Then I need to understand what made that successful, write it down. There's the time I have to actually take as a business owner to write down those objectives and key results. Then I can hire fast into those objectives with somebody who's believed to meet those objectives. When they can't hit the three key results or objectives, guess what happens? They walk themselves out of the business because you will give them an opportunity to succeed in those objectives and results and give them that task to take over. And then if, within a few weeks or even a month, they are not doing the task, you go back to the key results in a 15-minute meeting. You say, did you hit these key results? Okay, no, I didn't. Why did you not hit these key results? Are there anything that's stopping you or keeping you from hitting them in the next week? Please let me know now. We'll meet in 15 minutes in next week. By then, I expect these results to be done. Well, the week goes by, they either did it or they did not do it. In the result of the objective, the answer then becomes this is your probation period. If you are able to fix it and show me you can resolve it in less than a week, you understand what happens next, correct? Yes, I understand what happens next. People are smart. They understand the outcome of low performance. You don't need to tell them they're fired. We use in a particular conversation format, natural language processing in our brains and our thought process. We use what's called a common sense and common logic based understanding of business. When we hire somebody in, they expect to be paid. They understand results are a part of that. We don't need to keep telling them that. What we need to do in abundance and say, I'm giving you this role. It's your opportunity to gain from it or fail at it. And then allow them to give a grace period, a short grace period to meet those objectives and results. If not, walk them out, fire fast. Okay. Hire another person into that.
I want to talk about that because I've, been around for a long time too, right? Didn't get fall off the turnip truck last week, right?
Yep.
And what I've seen a pattern of is that men generally hire slowly and fire fast. Women are the reverse, right? Or the inverse, I guess, that women hire very fast but tend to fire very slowly. So, what advice can you give our female business owners, which is a large
Hmm.
part of my audience,
Sure.
on regarding that? Like, do you make
Yeah.
it as simple as here's the three objectives, that's it? You've got 2 weeks, 30 days to do it. And if not, hey,
Well, everybody writes down objectives, right? Regardless of who you are. The outcome is to not get your emotions caught up in it. That's where it gets really challenged. Now, to be clear, how I understand that, not speaking, or I don't want anybody to think I'm mansplaining. I live in a house of five women, okay? My entire life revolves around being able to motivate, lead, and deal with the ladies of my house in ways where we talk about value statements, we talk about their value statements, we talk about what it is they can do and can't do, and we talk about a number of things, including the fact that you have 100% control over your emotions, therefore you have 100% control of your actions. Okay. And in that way, men versus women, this is an action-oriented exercise, regardless. The action is to produce revenue from that role, or the role is not viable. Every role should produce revenue. With every role producing revenue, there should be an expected time frame for that to occur, regardless of how I feel about it. How I feel about it is not important because I need to pay bills, they need to pay bills, and the business needs to move forward. That's practicality. That's part of that common sense understanding we all have, regardless of who is executing the outcome. The end result is, emotional components can get caught up because we feel that there's a particular aspect of relationship involved with hiring that person. And so we have thought a little too much about how it feels to hire them. And instead, what we need to say is, here are your objectives and results. And I will slow down the emotions until I realize they're a successful person in what they do. And then I might get involved in who they are and what's going on. Does that mean that I don't care about them? No. It just means that when do I care about what they are as a person?
mhm.
I care about their success when they care about their success. I can't care about it for them because, again, I can't go out and make them drink the water, right? I can show them the water, but I can't make them drink it. That is not what a person in your business or an objective or a strategic partner or any relationship will do if they don't show initiative and they won't actually do the work.
Oh, bingo, bingo. And something I want to go back to where you sort of alluded to in one of your comments, and it reflects, I guess, what I've seen also in one of your YouTube videos around this whole concept of perfectionism and weeds. You started
Mm,
to go there where you have to lift yourself out of
hmm.
part of the business where
Yeah,
you can't live in the weeds. You said it the way that
that's
a
right.
lot of people hear it. You've got to be working on your business, not in your business, right? So,
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that perfectionism, imposter syndrome, where people are
Yeah.
and what you've seen with your client base.
Well, you heard the old phrase, fake it till you make it, right? And today
Right.
it's easier to do that even with AI, right? To fake the success until you make the success. I think what people forget that is the overarching aspect of being in the weeds and being above is the idea that if I don't put on a strong face or presentation all the time, no one's going to want what I have. And what you have to remember, though, is inherently most people generally love an underdog. They love someone who is striving. They love a good underdog story. They love a good underdog movie. They love when somebody overcomes adversity and challenges. If I tell you the story about how we went bankrupt with my fourth child on 8 months in, and they pulled the car out of the house, and we had to go down and face bankruptcy court, and that was extremely terrible with little children, and dragging my poor pregnant wife into the basement of this dang courthouse with 20 other poor souls who were going bankrupt, and how we struggled through that, and how I have a screenshot of $569 that still sits on my phone today to remind me of where I came from. And now I'm setting on everything. You have to realize that everybody has a similar struggle. Everybody has a similar story. What we like about underdogs is the fight. What we want to know is, can you fight? Are you willing to fight for your job? Are you willing to fight for the business? Are you willing to fight for the best outcome? And I think a lot of people get down in the weeds and forget, that everybody loves to support people. They really do at the end of the day, right? Not everybody wants to put you down. There's a few, and we get hurt by them. Don't get on the comments of Facebook or TikTok on your videos. If you're producing videos, they'll hurt you. It'll hurt your soul. Okay, don't go there, right? Because there's just nasty, mean people behind a keyboard. You have to reframe and refocus, reframe and refocus. If you're in the weeds of your business, if you're producing videos, if you're reaching out, if you're doing podcasting, if you're doing anything to move your business forward, you have to continue to reframe and refocus, right? And that is a tough thing to do. It's a coping mechanism. And with that, what you have to also understand, though, is when you're in that process, when you're in the fight, when you are moving towards that objective and others see you, they're going to come alongside of you and want to lift you up. So it is okay that you don't have all the right reviews yet. It's okay that you don't have the system perfected yet. It's okay to just work and be in the fight. Sometimes it's just enough, right, to be in the fight because every day is sufficient unto itself. And we worry so much about tomorrow that we don't focus on what is the one thing, the two things, the three little things that I can look at today and say I did successfully so that tomorrow I might see that reward. I always expect the reward to be today, but there is no guarantee of a reward today. There could be something that happens tomorrow. So a lot of times my wife will ask me, how'd your day go?" And I said, "Just move the ball down the road, moved it down a few more yards down the road. That's just where we are today. I made some good things happen. Not everything went as well as expected, but hey, I moved it forward. And I think we have to use those because others will see that and they will want to lift you up in that process. And in those weeds, we tend to get so bogged down in them that we start to lose focus on what our goals and objectives are. We start to lose focus on the priorities, and what kicks in is that fear and scarcity of time. The one asset we know we're always fighting against, right? That's why there's a multi-billion-dollar aging industry. That's why we constantly struggle with every week that goes by that we feel like we're not producing or we're not getting ahead or we're falling behind because we always are afraid of time. It's the one thing we're always trying to outrun. It's the one thing we don't have any more of that we get the time we get. Okay. So we have to start reprioritizing how we execute that time. And the only way to really do that at the end of the day is to reprioritize what you consider the successes in the time that you use. You're always looking for the big wins. You're never going to see them fast enough. And time will always expand so far out.
It's like you are coaching me directly, Neil. It's like,
Is it?
Laurelyn, I was meant to be here and tell you, get over your scarcity mindset, where I can see the halo and the little text like written above my head here, right? I've been trying to shift from that. I
Yeah,
think
it's
I'm in a
it's
better
tough.
place
It
now.
really is.
It it is. It took escaping from all of those negative Nellies who are like, you
Yeah.
can't do it. You're not doing this right. Why aren't you trying? Oh my God, that we're
Well,
supposed,
book
right?
reference,
Partners.
good to great.
Yes.
Is what you're talking about to some degree because it has to
I
do
have
with
read
where
it.
where people fit on your bus, right?
Yes.
And those who would lift you up might come closer to the front of the bus. Those who are being successful come closer to the front. Those who have troubles or need to stay one step away go to the middle of the bus. And then there will be people who literally help themselves to the back of your bus. You don't kick them off the bus. That's not how this works. They'll kick themselves off the bus.
And see, it's also a part of that. I think it is so much of the framework, and we're going to get into the e-business and
Yeah.
e-commerce stuff because that really is your bread and butter here. But
Sure.
the last comment I'll make on that, just even like I've noticed where my mindset has shifted. It was like, oh, Sisyphus, right? Pushing the boulder up Everest with a toothpick to, whereas you said it, moving the boulder down the road. Right. So you're seeing the
Just
road and
moving
you're
along.
moving forward versus like uphill and trying to battle and fight it. So I
Yeah.
think that's really important. Now let's get into your swim lane,
Mm.
business development and e-commerce.
Hmm.
There are a lot of folks who, for various political reasons, this, that, are saying, no, no, I'm not going to go with Amazon. I'm doing this. I'm going to go it alone or whatever other path. I don't like that Amazon takes the cut out, whatever percentage it is from my book, from my whatever. Talk to us about how you start to build and plan for a
Hmm.
successful business with fulfillment by Amazon. Talk to us about
Yeah.
some of those building block steps.
Well, what we're talking about is an e-commerce business, right? And e-commerce in a business model is simply just the movement of a product, digital or physical. Okay. So in this instance, we work with both digital and physical. We have the presence of marketplaces where products are sold, like Amazon as a sales channel, and then we have an actual physical, tangible product that is packaged, manufactured, and shipped to the customer. So with that, in simple terms, Amazon as a what's called fulfilled by Amazon, or the ability to get that product last mile to the customer, we simply leverage a service. We leverage their audience to incubate products and determine in an e-commerce business what we could sell, what we were loving, we refer to as what the hell do I sell? Which is the number one question everybody has when it comes to products or services or business or physical products. And so we leverage Amazon as a sales channel. It's 49% of the market share. It's an absolute juggernaut. You buy on it, so do we. Most everybody does now. And what it can do is quickly prove to me, is there a product that I know is in demand that I can sell in my brand? And once validated and incubated in that environment, can I then take that, raise it up in terms of sales and profitability, and then move it into multiple other sales channels? A holistic e-commerce business has at least three sales legs and under it. And as I look at that holistically, it is a what we call a halo effect. Okay, as I sell on my website with maybe Shopify, as I maybe put up TikTok ads or TikTok, shop, and I have an Amazon FBA platform, and maybe I've even got retail and Walmart and Wayfair and other places where my product is hitting the market sphere. Those are all just part of my halo. Now, certain people are going to fall back to Amazon. Some people would be okay buying on TikTok. Some people would be okay buying on my shop. But the more of those sales channels I have open, the greater the reach I have for market share in my product base. Like if I start on Amazon, it's 49%. Once I open up that secondary channel, I open the other 51% of opportunity for my brand. But Amazon is a juggernaut. It moves 7,000 units a minute. All right. During peak holiday times,
Jeez.
it's over 9,000 units a minute. There are 200 million Prime members. It's a $700 billion organization. There are 63% of Amazon sellers are third party like us. So at the end of the day, it is a great place to validate a brand and figure out which products I should sell so that I can get to the sales fixes everything equation. With that one, as the numbers work properly, then my fees and referral fees and Amazon platform fees are just part of a cost of goods. Now, everybody yells, well, Amazon takes so much. Well, then sell a higher priced product with greater profitability. See, business is nothing but solving a series of problems. If they take too much platform fee, sell a higher product that has a higher profitability in it. If you go over to something like Shopify and try to put your own book or product or service out there, you have to do all the marketing, which means you're going to have a cost, a time cost, a education cost to learn how to direct market, run Facebook ads and Google ads and SEO and organic and everything else. That has a time cost too. And oh, by the way, with certain cost metrics called like CPMs and CPAs and CPCs. If you've never heard any of those, go Google them. But those are cost of marketing and advertising. Those are raised up quite dramatically in the last few years. So if I have to pay for 30 to 40% of marketing cost, ad cost, etc. on my own website, but Amazon takes 30 to 40% over here, it really nullifies at the end. It really gets down to who am I selling and what brand am I selling to? I have to pay a fee, a platform fee, or a marketing fee, no matter what you do online. So to me, it's kind of falls on deaf ears to hear anybody arguing about cost of marketing. Cost of marketing is just an operations within business. And what's most important for cost of marketing is that I acquire a customer away from you. If I acquire them away from you, I've won. If I had to pay three to my product to do that, guess what? I still won because I acquired that customer away from you. So now is my business responsibility, my fiduciary responsibility, it is to take that revenue from that acquired customer and lower the cost of acquisitions through smart marketing and smart logistics and smart business management to bring that into a profitable revenue stream. So anybody who argues about costs of advertising, cost of marketing, cost of platform fees is actually missing the fundamentals of business behind that statement, right? It's kind of a naive statement. At the end, you cannot run a business without acquiring customers. So we have to keep that as a primary focus of that and then be smart about what we do in the business to acquire those customers. Physical product, digital product, or otherwise.
Perfect. Now, you've impressed upon our audience the whole concept of and the value of omni-channel, right?
Yes,
Whether it's omni-channel marketing, omni-channel sales, it all comes down to, right, not putting all of your eggs in one basket, right? Having that other
that's right.
strategy. But what about the timing, Neil? Because I've seen, well, I've gotten
Hmm.
it wrong in the past too, where you think you are ready to be in multiple channels, multiple
Yeah.
places, but that you end up spreading yourself too thin, you're not quite ready yet. Can you give
Yeah.
us again some
Right.
guardrails, some
Sure.
signs of, okay, this is the, when you start to think about moving beyond Amazon to Shopify in your own cart or to opening a TikTok shop or one of these things?
Yeah, so it's when we should, not that we shouldn't ever. So the real question becomes timing, and timing comes down to literally the four quadrants of a team effort, which is time, energy, attention, and money. As we dedicate the team effort towards one platform, we should focus on that platform until profitable. However, you focus on that one effort versus trying to spread yourself thin in the team effort across these other platforms, we will typically set a metric that says until we get past 50 to 100,000 a month in sales on Amazon, we won't move to a new channel yet, right? So that's just our guardrails of business rules within our brands. At that point, we now have the time, energy, and attention and money. We have enough momentum, market share, profitability, and growth happening in that first channel that we can now separate out some time, energy, and attention towards another channel. And in that way, in the duality of that, we cannot be an island unto ourselves. So it won't be me who opens the second channel. I will go to my partner, Aaron, who's very, very good at the direct to consumer, paid traffic, media, and his team, and I will hire them. Okay. So as you multiply and force multiply earlier, what you have to stop thinking again is mine, mine, mine. People think about what is my time going to take to do that? How much energy is it going to take me to do that? How much knowledge I'm going to have? Who am I going to do? And instead, what you need to be focused on is who is the right person, right situation behind my objectives and key results, my OKRs, that I will come in and have them test and run that for me. Why? Because now I can split up my time into the fiduciary and management responsibilities, not the tactical button pushing exercises. It's not really where the money's made. That's where it's executed. Where it's made is when a customer comes into your business and you're able to do it profitably and keep them profitably for the long term, right? So again, we're focusing on the wrong metrics. Like they're vanity metrics, right? Cash flow is king, profit is sanity, and anything else is vanity. So we need to make sure that we stay in the profitable mechanism of that growth and set again some realistic guardrails. If you're doing 10,000 a month in a single channel and you understand who your avatar is and what you're selling, then you need to double down your efforts to get it to 20 or 30 or 50,000 before you ever move to another channel. And once you do that momentum and that force multiplier occurs through focus, then continue to hammer away until you discover what it is exactly they want to buy from you and are feeling stupid not buying it from you when you offer it to them.
Well, that reminds me of just that last bit. I think of Alex Hormozy and the $100 million deal, right?
Yeah.
Make them an offer they can't refuse, right? I mean, that's just such valuable advice
Like a
in his, well,
mafia
all of his
offer. Make
books.
an offer they can't refuse. You know,
Right,
it's
right,
like
exactly, right. I can, yeah, what was it,
you're
Joe Gadolfo
scratching
was his
your
name?
tin with your horse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Make him an
right.
offer.
Now, what do you say to the entrepreneur who's really trying to get going? They believe in the product they have. They just haven't had the success yet. They're trying to
Yeah.
find a way. They
Yeah,
they
this is
you know
always
they're
true.
they're not making the sales. They're in the couple of thousands, but they see, I'd love to do this. I could be doing this better. I could be doing it more, but I don't know. I can't do the content creation. I don't have the money left to do, like, how do you talk to those folks? Do you come in and say, you know
Mhm.
what, forget about it, honey, that's it, it's just not going to happen, give it up? Or do you say, look, do these couple of things, start with that and see what you can do there, right? Like, what's your advice to these folks who really want to have a business, but it's just not happening yet?
Yeah, so here's the couple of things that I would say to that. First off, brands survive and products can thrive, but eventually products have a life cycle. But brands continue on forever, literally. When you see certain things, or I even attribute certain things through NLP techniques, if I were to say just do it, what do you think of?
Nike.
Do you wear Nikes?
No.
Okay, right. So if I were to say the brand name Lucky Strikes, what does that tell you?
Smoking.
Yeah. Do you smoke?
No.
So how do
But
you
I
know
did
these
work at a
brands?
tobacco company for a long time.
Okay, well that's cheating. But for those of you who are listening to this, you don't have any necessarily any attachment, emotional, otherwise, yet you know the brands, right? You probably couldn't tell me the specificity of which kind of products unless you knew in some
Oh, you'd
way,
be
somewhere,
surprised.
what Michael Jordan did for Nike. but it really
Right.
had to do with his name attached to their brand, even though they've come up with 20 different variations of his shoes. So what we say is don't marry your product, steal somebody else's girlfriend instead. So if you're hammering down on the idea that this product is the most important thing, you're borderline on invention. And what I need you to see is the innovation opportunity you're missing. Everything has an innovation, right? If you've owned a crock pot, you would know that most people have one of those, right? And what's the old joke about grandma's crock pot? We always were worried when she plugged it in, it was going to burn the house down, right? So a lot of us have that same intrinsic, understood, common sense cultural understanding that when you plug a crock pot in, you don't leave it. You put it on a GFI outlet or make sure we watch the crock pot so it doesn't burn the house down, right? But what did Instapot do, right? They literally
Right. They
came in and
literally
said,
came in and said,
we're not your grandma's crock pot. And they sold $1 billion, right? So they added
Right.
a few more features and functions to a crock pot. Okay. What's the next variation of a brand today in a product segment like that? Well, it's air fryers, right? So we've moved into the air fryer, which everybody who has an Instapot has a crock pot who now has an air fryer. So why? Because brands move on, but products change. But it's so what we need to do is marry the brand. So if someone is stuck, as you mentioned, on the product, they're losing focus on what the market needs. And by the time they have sort of figured out, they think what the market wants in sort of an inventor side, the market's already changed. Someone's already moved in, an innovation's already moved into that position, and they're late to the market. I was an inventor once. Ask me how I know this doesn't work. I went hundreds of thousands of dollars deep into a business that eventually bankrupted me out of trying to invent things that are so cool with great patents and nobody's ever going to hear of it, right? No one's going to ever hear of it.
Been there,
Why?
got the t-shirt, Neil. Yeah.
It sucks. It was great. Good learning lesson. Never to do it again. So the innovation component, if you're stuck on a product or a service you're trying to produce and you're not willing to look from the market and then ask the market what it wants and pivot to what the market wants, you're actually just not being a good business person. You're not being a good, responsible person to the business or the people or even yourself by being so locked in with pride, maybe arrogance, maybe heart, maybe you cried over it, maybe your family did this, maybe you've got a lot of emotions caught up in it, and you're not willing to move past it. You're going to force it to work no matter what. And that's actually an amateur business move. I'm sorry, but it is. The end result is if the market is telling you it wants something from you and you think you can provide that to the market, then pivot. Give it to the market. Why? It will start to sell. And then you can play around a little bit more with the ideology of what you want and how you want to
want
reshift
to
that
reshift
later
that.
on. It's the same thing as people trying to literally force a novel down the throat and wondering why is it so hard to build a tribe and get a novel going when it's more easier to just build guidebooks and strategy guides that have to deal with that specific issue that's necessary to be done in the business or situation you're trying to extol and start with the guidebook. And once you start to build a tribe, then put your novel out, right? At that point, they're going to suck your novel down.
So that's actually a really interesting concept. And I've talked to a lot of folks about books and that. And do you have a few more minutes? I know we've gone just a little
Yeah,
bit
a few
over.
more
Are you
minutes.
good?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So a lot of folks are out there producing books, right? I mean, I think it's at the tune of 20 to 22 million or something are self-published per year now, something insane.
Yeah.
So what's your advice to the authors out there? They don't have a physical product in that sense per se, but they're offering a book.
Yeah.
Going beyond, talk to us a little bit more about this, create the guide, build the demand. What do they do?
So I have a book, right? So I'm speaking from my own experience.
Yes.
And this was produced under initially the concept that we would write a book about me and my business experience and other things, which was going to be a little bit more like a centric novel kind of thing. Not an autobiography, but somewhere around that line. I said, no, I don't really want to just talk about myself in a book. It's not really what I'm cool with. Then the idea was pitched, okay, what if we brought other people in to co-write the book? I said, okay, we're getting closer. And then the concept was brought to the table. Hey, you have all these podcasts where you have all these really cool people with these great interviews and all this experience. What if we just picked out the podcasts episodes that align with the strategy, the commerce, the financing, the product, the research, the images, the graphics, anything needed to support that aspect of your business, and let's write it into a book format. And I'm like, wow, let's do that. That sounds really cool. So we built the book around 15 chapters in which I'm in it as the podcast host, but it really features the guests. So each chapter is one of the guests talking about their area of expertise as a subject matter expert. And then we provide resources and case studies out of each of those chapters around each of the subjects that was talked about in that chapter that kind of rounds out the strategy we have at Voltage and then a little bit of myself in the initial component of the book and stuff that kind of arches through it. And it's been received extremely well. It is a strategy guide. It is not a tactical guide. It is not a how to, for dummies. It is literally the business strategy of how we've made eight figures and more in sales in physical product. It is the most important part of understanding the business first, so then you know how to apply the tactics. That's why we started with that book first. And so I would recommend it anybody who has some intrinsic knowledge, a product or service that is supported by that knowledge. Don't just think about what it is in it for you. Bring some other people along for the ride and watch what happens. Because I had 15 authors also help bring the book to market and then also bring the marketing out when the book went to launch.
Excellent advice. So I know we're almost out of time.
Hmm.
How do people find you? Where do they find you
Hmm.
in Voltage? And your book, which we'll put the link
Sure.
in, Almost Automated Income with FBA. Neil,
Yeah.
how do folks find you?
Well, I think we have some free copies to give away, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes, you
at the
do.
link. So they can go to voltagedm.com/free book and then enter the code there in the show notes, etc. And for the first 10 people, they'll get a free copy. And that's one way to get connected with us if you're a reader and like to learn strategy and listen to that kind of thing. If you listen to podcasts, you're going to love the book. If you are interested in anything around physical products and how we work, what we call our as seen on TV strategy, Kevin Harrington is a partner of ours. He was the forward writer of the book, and we talk about that strategy and presentation on our website at voltagedm.com, where you can learn a little bit more about how we do the physical product world, brand building, and the growth of those assets all the way into sale, which we also are part of the acquisition process too.
Soup to nuts. And for those who don't know Kevin Harrington, Shark Tank.
Shark
So,
Tank, as seen on TV. Yeah, pretty good
right,
guy.
exactly.
Very smart.
Last question, signature
Hmm.
question. If we looked into your closet and there's a pair of footwear in there that personifies who Neil Toit is, what are we looking at? Boots, shoes, flip-flops? Describe them and why they are a mirror of your personality.
Yep. So you would find, can I give two? Because there's kind of like they're really close to each other, which ties
Okay,
my
you can have
personality,
two.
right? So, okay. So the first would be my UFOs, which are just the most comfortable flip-flop shoes you've ever experienced. I use them all around the property when we walk or something. They're just super, super comfortable, easy to flip on and off. The other ones are my boots. My boots are super dirty. They're worn. We live on 50 plus acres in the country. The boots are mostly year round for working and going out here and riding on the tractor and being a part of what my alternative personality is, my real personality that isn't in the online world, is to be out here with my family. We homeschool our four daughters out here. We live in the country. We build a heritage seed garden. We have a lot of stuff going out here in the country that we do, and the boots are a real good symbol of a dirty, dirty boot and happy life playing in the dirt.
Excellent. So, with that, thank you so much, Neil, for being on our show. We really appreciate it and appreciate your offer of the book.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.